Hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, good morning Ashwini. Good morning Vanapriya. Yes, my voice is audible to you, everyone. Yes, Preeti. Good morning. Am I audible to all of you? Voice. Yes. Okay. So today there is no issue. I think so related to voice, but still there is loud voice required. Okay. Okay. I'm going to use my voice only. Yes, everyone. Where are others? Yes, all of you know me very well. Yes, everyone. In Unacademy, you can take the subscription of Plus as well as Iconic. Yes, and please tell others related to the benefits of it. Here, the most important benefit is that you can attend any classes anytime at your own convenience at your doorstep. Yes, and we're going to take care of it. If you compare it with the other, it is very economical, and whenever you want to use it, then use my code. My code is here, Harshvi10. You will get the 10% discount. So it's a best thing for you to take a subscription of a year. It will be more beneficial for you. Yes, so where are others? Hello, hello, hello. Yes, shall we start? Shall we start? How many people are there? Okay, okay, okay. Yes, Himanshu, good morning. Yes, Samir, good morning. Okay, so we're going to start the lecture. Just quick recap of last lecture. In the last lecture, we discussed about the French economy. In the first, we already discussed about the problems in French society. Then we discussed about problems in the French monarchy, and then in yesterday's lecture, we mentioned about the problems in French economy. Okay, so here are the three most important problems faced by France at that time. That France was continuously engaged in a war with the Britain and American War of Independence added more fuel in that, as France was suffering a lot and it was just like a death blow for them. Clear. So American War of Independence was more burden over the France, clear, and it made the financial condition worst. Second, famines. The continuous famines were there for 2 3 years continuously. So that's why it added what we can say more burden, and this destroyed the economy. It destroyed the economy, and why it is so sorry. And why it is so? Because French taxation system was totally dependent on agriculture because agrarian economy was there. Clear? Next, no structural changes as it was required. As we mentioned earlier, what is structural changes means there is a need, there is a need of complete change in structure, but they failed to do that. These were the three most important problems by which the economy destroyed. Okay? So this was the thing we discussed yesterday. Next, we discussed that three most important things, that is problems in social structure, problems in monarchical structure, and here the third point. Third point, problem financial crisis, along with the role of ideas and role of philosopher led to French Revolution. So these are the three most important problems, and this role of idea acted as a catalyst that leads to French Revolution. Clear? So we discussed this as well. Okay. Next thing, that is role of philosopher. In that we mention about three most important philosophers: Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Voltaire. These were the three French philosophers which influenced the revolution during the active phase as well as during the constitutional phase as well. We're going to discuss, don't worry about it. Next, the John Locke also influenced the French revolutionaries. Writings of the Franklin also inspired them. Rousseau's idea of popular sovereignty, that is, will of the people, and he mentioned about the social contract. Clear? Montesquieu's separation of power and safeguarding the rights of individual. Clear? And Voltaire was very angry over the churches. They said that they are the privileged nuisance. Means he asked to end the authority of church over the common man. Okay. Next, divergent views. We mentioned that two types of views were there. First view suggests that role of philosopher is important. Others suggest that role of philosopher is limited. Yes, those who suggested role of philosopher important, they said that without philosopher, revolution is an impossible task. And the expression of that is French drank the poison of philosophy. Or if there were no Rousseau, there were no revolution. Clear? So it was the case. The other point of view is basically they restrict the role of philosopher. They considered that philosopher as a cause of revolution is like putting cart before the horses. One more one more rational comment is that comment is a cart loaded with fuel, a cart loaded, uh, sorry, a cart loaded with explosive, and financial crisis acted as a spark. Means basically the anger was there in French society. Just financial crisis exposed. Okay. So don't you think it's a rational thing? Yes, don't you think it's very rational? That problem was already there in French society. This financial crisis, what we can say, clarify the doubts over that. Yes, problem was there, and this financial crisis created sorry, what we can say, it uh, added a more burden, financial burden, social burden over the people, and they realizes that yes, it is just because of the mismanagement from the administration side, and because of that we are suffering. Clear? So it is very clear. Next important thing, that is today we are going to discuss, that is summoning of State General and issue of voting. Yesterday I mentioned one thing, so I am giving the reference here. Yesterday we mentioned that as there was a need of financial reconstruction. Yes, financial reconstruction was there. Initially, as the king was not agree. King was not agree to introduce. There were financial advisors like Necker suggested need of financial reconstruction. And I told you earlier that first and second estate opposed. First and second opposed it. And because of that, Necker left the job. Why it is so? Because he was a financial expert. He knew that it is a necessity. Without introducing it, the French economy is not going to revive, and it's not just a question of economy. It will be, or it will decide the future of France. So that's why he suggested that, but it was opposed from first and second estate. So that's why that idea was wrong. Okay. Another thing is that another important person later suggested, known as Turgot. There were two more persons, but these two played most important role. Turgot. Initially, as he was a financial expert, initially he said that no need of changes. But once he became financial advisor, he realizes the need to introduce changes. Because once you assume the power, you will get to know, okay, this is a need, we have to change. So he suggested king that yes, this is the time. This is the time to introduce changes at all cost. The same way, here is king, here is the first, second and third estate. King ordered to pay taxes, and they don't want to lose privilege. Clear? King ordered to pay taxes, and first and second estate didn't want to lose their privileges, and at the same time third estate was so convinced with that idea, and third estate said that no, they have to pay taxes, at all costs. So there is a conflict of interest between privileged group and unprivileged group. Privileged group considered that they do not want to pay tax, and third estate, that unprivileged group, said that no, they have to pay taxes as country required it right now. So the problem is that privileged group unwilling to pay taxes. Privileged group unwilling to pay taxes, but it's order of king. Yes, Vijay, good morning. It's order of king, and king that time was God. If you deny it, then ultimate reality is that end of your life. On one side, you're on the verge of losing your privileges. On the other side, if you refuse to do that, you're on the verge of death. What to do? They found out the solution. आपकी जिंदगी में भी ऐसा होता होगा कि जैसे सिचुएशन आती है, यू फाइंड आउट द सॉल्यूशन, दे फाइंड आउट द solution, and that solution was basically, they said that is these two states said king don't have a right to introduce new taxes by phone. Yes, remember what they said, and yes, they have the proof. King do not have a right to introduce new taxes by own. If king wants, if king wants to introduce, then king has to take permission from the state general. King do not have a right to introduce new taxes. New, the word is new taxes. But if king wants, then king has to take permission from the state general. What's the state general? Here is the state general. I will explain. King has to take permission from the state general. Why they were so much confident about it? Yes, what do you think? Why the first and second state, that is privileged group, was so convinced, just summon the state general and take a permission from it. If state general is agree with that, then we don't have a problem to pay. Just small technicality is there. They said that we want to pay, we are ready, just take it. But one technical problem is there. As you are our king, God, and you have to follow the rule. And that rule is very basic, that you have to take permission from state general. If state general said yes to introduce new taxes, we are ready for that. They were so confident that state general is not allowing king to introduce new taxes. Why they were so confident? It's very simple thing. When you know the result, when you know the outcome. For example, in your school and college days, basically the school test and all, if you somehow you get the paper of tomorrow's exam, somehow you get the paper of tomorrow's exam, don't you think you will be so much confident when your parents ask, there you be, and you are going to say, yes, I'm ready, whatever maybe the paper is, that I'm going to read, I'm going to crack it. After solving the paper, if they ask you how was paper, you say the fantastic. How it is so? Because you know the outcome. You know the outcome, and yes, it is the same thing with them. They know the final outcome of it, and how it is so, because state general was a kind of, the word is kind of, parliament. As I mentioned, the word kind of means not exactly, means in the parliament, you know what is there, representative of people, common, as in our parliament, representative of common people. Do you really think so they are representing commoners? Yes. Do you really think so they are going to represent the common people? Of course not. Parliament means where we can vote and we can choose our representative. In the kind of parliament, it is not election here. What is there? Appointment or selection. In the kind of parliament, it is appointment or selection. In appointment, commoners has no right. Has no right. Clear? So it is a kind of parliament. Okay. It's a kind of parliament, means not a no representative from the commoners. It's appointed by king or anything. Okay. So this is the case. What exactly the thing? How they were so sure about the outcome? Every state, sorry for spelling mistake here. Every state is having vote share. Every state is having vote share. One vote for one state. In other words, we can mention one state, one vote. Clear? Means one state, one vote, one vote, one vote. So sum of this is 2, 1, winner. Yes, don't you think so? One state, one vote. First state is having one vote, second state is having one vote, and these two are privileged group, and they opposes the idea of introducing new taxes, and they knew that they are having majority, so new taxes is not going to introduce. What is the issue of voting? I am going to discuss that thing. First and second state wants to continue the same process of voting, that is one state one vote. So how exactly this one state one vote? Oh, mhm. Some, just a moment, something. Okay, so as I'm a beginner, a new learner in the field of that's technical knowledge, so sometimes it happens. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so here, what is how this one state one vote principle was there? As the first state is having 300 members, second state were having 300 members, and third state were having 600 members. So when we considered first state is having one vote, that means there is an internal voting. There is internal voting. As for example, let's take example of all of us, means we all are connected with each other. And if I ask you about me, means whether I'm teaching okay, good, or not good, whatever may be. Don't you think so? You all are having divergent views. Forget about the teaching. One more thing regarding the class timing. If I ask you the class timing, means I want to shift the class timing from 8:30 to 8 o'clock or 8:30 to 9 o'clock or in the evening. So this can be the issue. And we are living in democracy. I am true follower of democracy. So I'm going to ask you, what's your opinion? Because you are the stakeholder. You are the stakeholder and your opinion matters. Yes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you, what's your opinion? So what you are going to do, you all are having different opinion. So you can consider this issue within yourself. Whatever the group means, whatever the people are there, you're going to consider that issue with each other. Maybe suppose you are 100 people. Out of 100, 60 said no change in the timing, and rest 40 said yes. ज़्यादा हो गया 40 30 कितने हुए 60 प्लस 30 90 10 तो ऐसे हमारे भारत में मिल ही जाते देख दो एनीथिंग clear. In India we have always 10 people who don't know anything. Clear. So 60 said there should not be any change, 30 said yes there should be change. So if I ask you the final result, then your opinion is no. Clear. It is exactly the same issue with the first step. There was internal voting, and after that voting the majority wins, and the majority wins, the vote is basically one vote. Clear. And don't you think so majority loves privileges? They don't want to lose it. Clear. So I already mentioned one state one vote principle was there. Here it is the same. Clear. So 2 versus 1, victor. So this is the first side of the same coin, issue of voting. This is the first side. Clear, everyone? Yes. As I mentioned, the first issue of voting. From the angle of first and second state. Now, what's the other side? Other side, as I mentioned here, 300, 300 and 600. Third state demanded, and third state consists of bourgeois. So intelligentsia, they demanded one person, one vote. They demanded one person, one vote. So here 300, here 300, here 600. Tie. Then why they were so convinced with the idea of one person, one vote? They were like that. No, no, we have to introduce it at any cost. And they were also sure that they are going to emerge as a victor. As you know, that I mentioned, first and second state stood for one state, one vote, and third state stood for one person, one vote. And why they demanded so much? Because they also knew that if it happened, if one person, one vote happened, they are going to emerge as the victor. And how it is so? If we consider 600, 600, it's okay. But don't you think so in the first state as well, in the 300 people, at least 10 people are rational? How it is so? The first state we mention about the clergy. The first state we mention about the clergy. And in the clergy, only the top class clergy, elite, enjoy all the privileges. But the junior cadre suffered a lot. They were having privileges, but they didn't enjoy. So there was a dissatisfaction among them. What I mentioned, clergy enjoyed the privileges, but there was a division among the clergy. Elite clergy enjoy all the privileges, and the lower cadre privileges are just for namesake. So they were unhappy with that. Just take an example of any Baba or Bua in India. What exactly it is? They enjoy all the privileges. They are having car, they are having plane, they are having everything. But what about the cadres? Some of them feel cheated. It has always been there. So it was a case there. Clear? So don't you think so? At least 10 people from the first state having some sense, rationality. Yes. The same way, here also, don't you think so? The 10 people, at least 10 people are having some rational sense. How it is so? How it is so? Let me explain it very well. And this is my age-old example. It's very common and universal. Suppose if you're going out and this is a era of pandemic, we all are suffering because of the pandemic. At the same time, we are suffering from financial crisis as well. So there is a scarcity of resources, no jobs in the market. So don't you think so? When there is a economic destabilization, there is a less scope for getting job. Yes, that means most of the people are unemployed. This is the situation right now. And as a person, you as a person is going out, and one person, maybe male or female, I don't know, one person stop you and ask you to pay 100 rupees for food. Yes, I'm going to explain with help of example. Here is you, smart guy, walking on road, and one person ask you, give me 100 rupees. Ask him, give me 100 rupees for food, I don't have money. Two situations. First, pay. Second, deny. See? So we are going to discuss the second situation. That person asks you 100 rupees for food because it is a question of his survival. And you have, in your pocket right now, you have 200 rupees. That person asks you 100, and as according to the second case, you deny that. I don't want to give you. It's crime and all. But it is a question of that existence, what that person is going to. Maybe that person beat you, maybe that person tried to kill you just for 100 rupees. Suppose that person beat you, he is going to take all the 200 after that. What you have? Zero. What you have? Zero. This is the second case. Same person asks you 100 rupees for the food, and this time you use your little brain. In common word, it is said that dimag ki batti. You can consider, okay, what he is asking, 100 rupees. I am having 200 rupees. If I am not going to pay, this person is going to take 200 rupees. Along with that, he is going to beat me, and I have to go to clinic. So it added more burden over me. Okay. Whatever the action you want to take, you can take later on, the police action and all. But at that time, you can use your little brain. Am I right or wrong? So if you give that person 100 rupees, 100 remains with you. Common sense. 100 remains with you. It is the same thing. It is the same thing with these people. As I mentioned here, that 10% should be rational from here. You will get that 10% should be rational from here as well. Why it is so? Because they can consider, instead of losing everything, it's better to lose something. Yes, instead of losing everything, it's better to lose something. And why people are asking? Because your country is suffering a lot. They don't have money to run the administration. So just imagine, if all are hungry, all are frustrated, definitely that angers channelized, and basically that leads to looting you. So there are at least 10 people from it which can think on a rational line. Yes, don't you think so? Yes, they can. So these are the 10 people. And as we just now mentioned, here are 600. These are 300, 300. So let's suppose these two supported the idea of third state. Don't you think so that people from here supported the idea here? What do you think so? If you can see the Indian democracy with the naked eyes, you will get to know this can be happen. Yes, don't you think so? That people from third state defected themselves from third state to first and second state, means in terms of voting. Yes, what's your reaction? Yes, Santosh, good morning. What's your reaction? What do you think? Is it possible? Yes, say something. Is it possible? Yes, guys and girls, please, don't you think it's possible or not? Yes, Samir, Himanshu, Vijay, Ashwin, Preeti. Hmm. What do you think? No reaction? At least say that yes, it is possible, or yes, it means no, it's not possible. At least. Samir, the question is that, as we mentioned here, that 10 people from first state, 10 people from second state are considered as a rational, and they knew that their country need their support, and this is the high time we have to support the introduction of taxes. Clear? So if they are rational, don't you think so they can support the idea of third state? They can support the idea of third state to introduction of taxes. At the same time, as there is a possibility that maybe 40 people from third state, under the influence of money or anything, they can change their mind and they supported the first and second state. Yes, Vasudha said yes, it is possible. Preeti, Ashwini, yes, 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 it is possible. In our democracy, we can easily say it may be the case. Then, yes, it may be the case. Then why third state wants one person, one vote? If there is a possibility, then why one person, one vote was a demand of third state? Yes, it may be possible. You said that it may be the possible. As I mentioned, the first case we mentioned about the issue of voting. First case is with privileged group. Second case is of unprivileged group. Privileged group want one state, one vote, and what they want, one person, one vote, and both stood for their demand. And as I mentioned earlier, if you are stood for any particular thing, that means you know the outcome. You know the outcome of it. You know the result. What will be the result? So that's why you're so confident about it. Why they stood for that? That is the question. Till now, any problem, any query? Till now, is there any problem, any query? No? Good. Now, let me explain why they were so confident. Why third state were confident. Why third state were confident? It's because why third state were confident? It's because it is an opportunity, lifetime opportunity. It's a lifetime opportunity, or we can say the once in a lifetime opportunity, once in a life. And why? How can we say that? because third estate were fighting to end the privileges. Yes, Ashwini, it is we can return here. Okay. Why third estate were confident? Because it is a lifetime opportunity, once in a life opportunity. And you know that the third estate were fighting to end the privileges. Third estate were fighting to end the privileges. So how can they cannot change their vote, because it is a once in a lifetime opportunity. They can earn money later, and you know that most of them were the bourgeois, as I said, professional, doctor, yes, traders. They have money. They have money. They don't want money. These bourgeois were professional. Money. What they want? They want equality. Money can be earned anytime, but this is the opportunity when you can end the privileges. So there is a no scope for defection. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me? Hmm. Please let me know your opinion. Do you agree with me or not? In your lifetime, if you get such an opportunity which can change the life, not just yours, but of your society. Do you really think so? Okay, as Ashwini said, please explain once again. Okay, no problem. Yes, everyone, please allow me to explain it once again. Maybe it creates a confusion and all. Don't get confused. Clear? Once again, I'm going to explain why third estate were confident of victory over issue of one person, one vote. Yes. Why third estate were confident of victory over the issue of one person, one vote. As I said, maybe the possibility, but why I am denying the possibility of defection? First, it is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Once in a lifetime opportunity. How the third estate wants to end privileges. Third estate wants to end the privileges of first and second. And it's their demand for centuries. third estate wants to end the privileges of first and second estate, and it's their demand for centuries. And now in 1789 they got that opportunity. They got that in 1789. They got that opportunity. Do you really think so? If you are having some little brain, you're going to lose that opportunity. Forget about the Frenchman. Just consider yourself in 1789 at that time. Do you really want to lose this opportunity just for money? Just think about it. Just consider yourself as a Frenchman. You're from third estate. You're suffering from everything for centuries. Discrimination is there, discontent is there, exploitation is there, poverty is just because of that. You are not going to miss that opportunity at all cost. And for money, why? Why they? And just for money, really? Money, of course, matter, but it's not everything. Money matters, but it's not everything. And as I mentioned earlier, the people belongs to third estate is having occupation, peasantry, and bourgeois. And who are the members in estate general? Estate general, to whom you considered as a representative of third estate? Bourgeois only, because they are intelligentsia. They are intelligentsia. They are professionals. They are having money. They already have money. What they want equality only. They don't want money. Money is already there with them. What they want equality, and this is a lifetime opportunity for them. So there is a least scope or defection from third estate to the privileged group. Yes, exactly. The Preeti, yes. Ashwini, yes, exactly. Samir said not at all. Yes, they are not at all going to defect themselves from third estate to first and second estate, because it is once in a lifetime opportunity. So that's why they were so confident. The third estate was so confident about their demand of one person, one vote. And they knew that there are some rational from first and second estate also going to support their claim. Clear? There are some rational from first and second estate also going to support their claim. That's why they were so confident. Clear? So now the issue of voting was basically two, that is privilege and unprivileged. They want one estate, one vote. What they want? One person, one vote. And this is the issue of voting was the issue of conflict among them. Now the issue of voting became the bone of contention between privileged and unprivileged group, because both knew that if they followed their methods, victory will be there. Victory will be there. And this privileged group, they asked king to summon a state general. they asked king to estate, summoning of estate general. As this was the first time after 175 years, estate general. After 175 year, estate general summon. After 175 years. So can you realize how this institution is? Don't you think so? It is a dead institution. Means one parliament kind of structure is present in your country and you never met for 175 years. So it is near to death. That institution is already died, but still they want to revive it. Still they want to revive it. Clear? now, now, here is a very interesting game. What happened and how it happened. Clear? Okay, these two privileged group stood for their demand. Privileged group stood for their demand. Unprivileged group stood for their demand. One state, one vote. One person, one vote. State general. Okay. So summoning of State General after 175 years, conflict was going on between first and second state, between the privileged and unprivileged group. Now there is a dilemma in front of king. Now there is a dilemma in front of king. What to do? Because both stood for their demand. Both, that is privileged group stood for demand, third state stood for, and not just stood for demand, they were radical as well. They were radical because they realized now or never. Moment for them. It's now or never moment for them. So what to do? They say that no, we want it. As while discussing the French monarchical system, we mentioned the problems in French monarchical system, and in that we mentioned the rule of king, that is 14, 15, and I mentioned the Louis 16. At that time, what I mentioned about that person, he was a foolish person. And why that? Why I said that? Because he was an inexperienced person. He doesn't have a vision. So what he did, and because of that mistake, he paid the price of it. Because of that mistake, he paid the price of it. How? How? When third estate, that is unprivileged group, stood and firm over their demand, king ordered to close the door, close the doors for third estate. Third estate demanded the same thing, issue of voting. King was not having vision. He was a foolish one. So what he did? He closed the doors of Estate General for third estate. Closed the door of Estate General for third estate. And that made third estate angry. That made third estate angry, and the resultant of that, That third estate said that we do not want to be a part of it. They gathered together and they declared themselves as a national assembly. This whole third estate gathered together in ground and they proclaimed themselves and they proclaimed they proclaimed themselves as a national assembly. They said that we are not at all interested in you. We do not want to take part in your debate and discussion. We do not want to take part in your debate and discussion. Why it is so? Because right now we are true representative. We are true representative of French people. And of course it is the case because they belongs to the 90% of the population. They knew the plight and miseries of the common people. Once that king ended their entry into State General, they proclaimed themselves, proclaimed means self-proclaimed. Nobody recognized them. Basically, it is a revolt against the king. Against the king, basically. And they said that we are the true representative of French people, French society. We do not want to be a part of a state general. Till this point, issue is clear. Yes, till this point, issue is clear or not. And why I'm explaining this thing in detail because rest of the events totally depend on it. As in the first lecture I mentioned, it is the chain reaction and French Revolution is the first event in that reaction. It started in 1789, but you will get the consequences till 1991. Yes, Anil, hello. Yes, everyone, have you got it? Till now, whatever I explained till now, is there any doubt, any confusion? Yes, yes, Ashwini said all clear. What about the rest? Yes, everyone? Yes, Samir said yes. So your response is also important. Yes, as I mentioned in the first lecture only, it is a two-way communication. Your response is more important for me. If you don't get it, please let me know. I'm there to explain. Yes, so everybody, I think so. You don't have any problem. And those who are just watching, just watching. It's not a movie. Remember, it's not a movie. It's your career. So be active. थोड़ा टाइप करने में उंगलियां थोड़ी गिर जाएगी. Yes, so please be active so that it will help you as well as it's good for me that you all are attentive. Clear till this point? No problem. Okay. Now we are going to start the thriller. It's an action thriller. Welcome. Yes, Bhanupriya, yes, clear. Everyone clear problem. Okay. Now the beginning of French Revolution. In the month of June, as I mentioned earlier, in the month of June, when King stopped the entry of Third Estate, so they revolted against the king and formed National Assembly. form National Assembly. In your history book, it is mentioned that they gathered together at a tennis ground. There was a tennis ground, so that's why they gathered there. If there was a football ground, they gathered there. So ground is not important. What is important? That is, they revolted against the king and they declared themselves as a national assembly. And they say that we are true representative of France, so we are going to decide the future of France. So it is an action. This formation of national assembly, it is an act of revolt. Don't you think so? It's an act of revolt against whom? Against king. And who is king? God. I'm not asking about the name of person. I know that, and you also know the person. Formation of National Assembly is an act of revolt against the king's order. And at that time, it was an era of divine theory of kingship. King is considered as a god on earth. So don't you think so? It's too much act of daredevil. They didn't listen. So basically, what's the reaction from king side? There's a reaction from the king side. How king want to regain the lost ground with the force, but failed. And here the meaning of ground is not tennis ground. राजा है वही वो राजा पूरा देश उसका है. So he is not going to bother about one small ground. He is not like me and you. We are going to fight with each other for inch of land. He is having lost ground. What it means? It means that loss of authority. Clear? In June 1789, third state formed National Assembly. It is an act of revolt against the king, and king want to regain his authority, and he ordered the third state to rejoin Estate General. Here what happened? King ordered third state to take part in Estate General. Ordered. The word is ordered, and earlier means pre-June 1789, the king order was final and everybody has to follow. Now it was not the case. King ordered, third state refused. Third state refused. If we can consider it in modern days, then third estate's reaction is like lol. अब हम बहुत आगे निकल चुके हैं. They said that we are far away from your madness and all. Clear? King ordered, they refused. In modern day, I mentioned the reaction is like lol. Clear? And what he did? One more thing. What he did? He uses force against third state. If you are a human and if you are having common sense, there are very less chances that people are having common sense. But if you are a human being and you are having common sense, so can you use the force against angry mob? Do you want to use force against angry mob? You can use. Yes, you have force, you can use. The consequences is will be really dangerous. So always remember that as you are going to be a bureaucrat, use your common sense. Whenever the mob is angry, do not use force, weapon. Use the words. Your words are more powerful than arms. You can convince. Let's take example of our beloved Gandhiji. When Naukali was reached to its madness, this person went there without any weapon and he pacified the masses. That is the strength of word. And as I mentioned, Louis XVI was a foolish person. So he proved that time and again that he uses the force against an angry mob, and the resultant of that beginning of revolution. The result of that is beginning of revolution, and now they say that we are not going to listen. So in some book it is mentioned that on this day, particular day, revolution started, but historian doesn't convince with any particular date. They say that when king uses a force against the angry mob, the revolution started. There is no specific date for beginning of revolution. Clear? Some say 22nd June, some say 14th July. So there is a divergent of views. So please do not fall into that trap. And of course, you do not love dates and battles. Yes, so it's very common. Clear? Yes, Lucy said, please telegram. Yes, I will. I will. Don't worry. After this lecture, I'm going to mention my telegram link as well. Okay. And what do you think when he uses a force against angry mob? Whether he succeeded in that or not? Of course not. He failed. He failed in that. Now revolution started. And you know that when revolution started, all are highly inspired by the idea, and that idea is of freedom. That idea is of basic rights. They were in different phase. Common masses were in different phase. They considered this is the now or never opportunity, and they utilized it everywhere, and they started attacking those places which are considered as a symbol of oppression, and one of the place was Bastille. Bastille was at that time acted as a prison. In modern word we can mention it as a jail. It was like a jail, and there were lots of story related to the Bastille, how the soldiers humiliated prisoners, how they tortured them, and all such type of stories were famous in France at that time. And when these revolutionary forces were going from that area and they saw the Bastille, and anger was inside for centuries, and revolution made them attack over Bastille, and the resultant of that fall of Bastille, the prisoners were freed by revolutionary. Don't you think so that releasing a prisoner is a right of king? Yes, don't you think so? It's a right of king. And now revolutionary considered no, they are going to release it. So basically, with help of that, they denied the ultimate authority, or we can say they denied the ultimate rule. authority of king. Yes, remember one more thing. The revolution started, but revolution was not against the king. Yes, in the beginning, when revolution started, revolution was not against king. Then revolution was against privileges and discrimination. Yes, it was not against the king. Discrimination. And when I mentioned they denied the ultimate, means they denied the absolute monarchy. And why it is so? Because they learn from book. Philosophers were there. They inspired. What Rousseau said. Rousseau said it is a social contract between king and people. If king is not going to follow that, then people have authority to overthrow that person. Popular sovereignty, that we are the source of power, not any ultimate authority. Yeah. So they were so much inspired with that. They denied the absolute monarchy at that time. Clear. So fall of Bastille was another event. Next, in August, there was a declaration of rights of man and citizen. As the word women is not mentioned earlier because at that time there was no concept of equality. It was just a beginning of concept of equality, and this equality they want among the men, among the rich and poor men. All the terms, maybe the equality, liberty, are evolving in nature. Are evolving in nature. It doesn't mean that in one go you are going to provide everything. Everybody is striving and fighting for it. Okay. So I just want to mention one more thing here. I forgot to mention the National Assembly, as we mentioned, formed in June 1789. Formed in June 1789. They started a work of drafting constitution, as they denied the authority of king, and they denied the absolute monarchy as well, and they inspired by the ideas of philosopher, and one was John Locke. Even the Britain was more progressive as compared to France in all the sense, and they were the neighbors. So they started drafting a constitution, and when National Assembly took the task of drafting constitution, it was known as Constituent Assembly. The same body known as the Constituent Assembly when it took the task of drafting constitution. Clear? So, here in August, when Constituent Assembly was on work, they declared an article, and that article is known as Rights of Man and Citizen. And through this, the three very famous terms emerge. It is written in the paper, that is liberty, equality, and fraternity. Welcome to the world of liberty, equality, and fraternity. These three ideas change the world forever. These three ideas are having impact over you and me. These ideas inspired all of us, and these ideas will inspire the future generation. As I mentioned, these ideas are evolving in nature. Let me explain, as this is just away from our syllabus, but still I just want to explain one concept of equality. When initially they want equality between rich man and poor man, because men doesn't have equality. Now they want equality between men, rich men and poor men. So this is the evolution. What they after that, it is between men. Now this equality is established, means all men are equal. Now this equality term inspired to want the equality between men and women. Clear? After that, when this equality is established between men and women, third gender, as we mentioned about LGBTQ, they are fighting to get equality in the society. And we as a welfare nation state, we as a progressive nation started introducing reforms, started recognizing them, as we issue the voter card to them, as we issue the Aadhaar card to them, and along with that, there were some members who selected in government offices as a judge, as a Supreme Court lawyer, or as a police officer and all. So we are providing them, but still a miles to go. Clear? So this is the evolution term, equality. The same thing with the liberty, same thing with the fraternity. Clear? So this inspired us earlier, they are inspiring us right now. Clear? Good. So Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, these words are evolved: liberty, equality and fraternity. Clear? And along with that, this is mentioned the source of power. People. One more important incident happened in October 1789. As September-October, Paris was facing food crisis. Paris was facing food crisis, and we all know that till today, in so-called suppose equal society, kitchen is a duty of women. Yes, in so-called equality-based society, kitchen is the duty of women only. So just imagine the situation of women at that time. At that time, it was an established fact that women have to do the work in the houses. They have to upbring the child, they have to cook the food and all. So when there was a food crisis, and crisis was so dangerous that many people doesn't have money. Those who have money can buy breads, as they cannot miss. It's not their usual practice to cook roti and chapati at home, so they usually buy bread from the bakeries. As I mentioned, situation was so worst. It is a food crisis. People doesn't have money, so every day, riots broke out for food. Every day, just imagine Let's take your example. If you want to buy a grocery and you went out and every day it's like a fighting, a battle for you to get food. So don't you fed up with that idea? Yes. Just imagine your situation. If you cannot imagine their situation, just like that, for your survival, every day you have to fight like you're facing war, you're facing battle. So because of that, and as women were having the responsibility of home, so basically these food items, basically bread, they have to collect, and every day women suffered a lot. Every day women suffered have lot. So so women of Paris, women of Paris went to one palace which is located few kilometers away from Paris, and the name of that Paris was Versailles. Yes, the same palace which is there after First World War, Treaty of Versailles. It's not a Versailles. Generally, those who cannot pronounce Versailles, they used to say Versailles. It is not Versailles. Treaty of Versailles. Same palace. It is located near France. Right now, it is an integral part of Paris only. Earlier, it was far away from Paris. So the women of Paris went to Versailles. Why? Because still the women considered king as a source of authority. Still the women considered king as a god. Why? Just imagine. This is the month, June. King was god. In month of August, nowhere. But still the women considered king as a god, and they considered that king is going to solve their problem. King is going to solve their problem. So women march from Paris to Versailles. At that time, what happened and why I earlier mentioned Louis XVI was a foolish person. He proved that every time. He means he never, what we can say, make me wrong. He always proved that what's my opinion about him and what's the opinion of others about him was absolutely right. That is, he was foolish. Women went to Versailles in the hope that king is going to do something. As a very famous statement of Queen, though that statement was not made by her. In history, it was not means nowhere the statement is registered. But but that statement we can consider as a representative of the mentality of monarchy towards the subjects. They don't know what was the situation of commoners. They enjoy the lifestyle. They means what we can say lavish lifestyle, aristocratic life. They don't know what are the common problems faced by the people. So this statement is basically that when the Queen of France, she asked her maid, "What's the problem? Why these ladies are here?" Then maid replied, "They don't have bread to eat." And her casual reply was, "Ask them, eat cakes." Means it's just like your situation right now. You are from most of you from well enough family. So if you ask your mother, "I'm hungry, I want something," and if it is not available, then your mother can gives you option. Okay, take this. But just imagine the situation at that time when women or common people in the France doesn't have bread, cheapest thing to eat. How it is possible for them to purchase a luxury item? It's not possible. But it shows that they don't understand the reality of French society and suffering and misery of common people. Okay. So what happened here? When the women went to Versailles in the hope of relief, in the hope of relief. But as Louis XVI uses force against angry women. Don't you think so? It's a blunder. It's a disaster. A disastrous decision by Louis XVI. He uses a force against angry women. If you know the nature of women very well, women are so kind in nature that they never get angry easily. Yes, you may have your sister, you may have your mother, you may have anyone, even you may have a friend or girlfriend, anything. You know the nature. They are not generally angry over others. By nature, they are so kind. But right now, women are angry because they are facing problems. And this person uses a force against women. And now women shows the Durga route, Chandi. And the is resultant of that is women started the funeral march of old monarchy. How they took king and queen with them. It's grand rally at that time. It's grand march. King and queen were the captives of women. So you can imagine how women were angry. Captive once upon a time God. Right now his situation is like he was begging. कुछ तो इज्जत करो भाई राजा था. It was like that. So women, and why women held them captive and started that march towards Paris, it is just because they want to show that women want to show king the reality of his state. Just look at the misery, look at the rise and do something. Yes, but as you can, as third person, you can easily see that king lost everything. So it is just like the historians gave this word, funeral march of old monarchy. यानी अंतिम यात्रा चल रही है किसकी? फ्रांस के क्या कहते हैं सम्राट की. Yes, Louis. So it is the end of absolute monarchy. Okay. Okay. So till this point, all events, it's a really thrilling thing. Don't you think so? It's really thrilling. They formed National Assembly. King wanted to regain the lost ground with help of force. King asked them to be a part of his state general. They refused it. King uses force and they fought against the king. 14th July, fall of Bastille, symbol of oppression, and finally, revolutionary releases the prisoners. August, the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, and in that it was the new ideas, the Trinity that try to change the word liberty, equality, fraternity, and in October, there was a funeral march of old monarchy, which ended the absolute monarchy in France. Now, next, as I mentioned this point earlier, National Assembly started drafting the constitution for France, so it is known as Constituent Assembly. So do not get confused. Do not get confused that National Assembly and Constituent Assembly were different. No, they were performing two tasks at the same time when it is an issue of legislation. It acted as a National Assembly, and when it is an issue of constitution, it acted as a Constituent Assembly. Some popular phrase in India is like Gangadhari Shaktiman. It's just like Gangadhari Shaktiman. And this happened in India as well. If you know the constitution, if you know after independence events in India, then you know that Constituent Assembly was there. That Constituent Assembly acted as a parliament as well as Constituent Assembly acted as a place to draft the constitution. Yes, it happened in India as well. 1947 till 1950. Constituent Assembly acted as a both in India as well. Clear? So don't get confused. Okay. Next, Constituent Assembly introduced two types of changes. These are major changes introduced by them: religious changes and secular changes. Please tell me. I'm waiting for your answer. Religious changes and secular changes. What type of changes introduced by France or French Constituent Assembly? I want a wild guess answer. I don't want the exact answer. I'm not expecting it. But as a common sense, as I mentioned, there are very few people in India who are having common sense, and I consider you. So please let me know. What do you think? What kind of religious changes introduced by France at that time, and what kind of secular changes introduced by France? Yes, secular changes, abolition of estate based on birth, Ashwini said. Okay. What about others? Yes, yes, I am asking all of you. It is not that one person is assigned for this work. You have, you can do this thing as well. Assign any person to write a mains and be happy when that person become IAS. It's not the case. It's between you and me. Just I want answer from you. Yes, please, please. Hurry up. What do you think? Use your common sense. Samir said religious changes, absolute authority of first estate over churches. You want to say end of authority of church. End of authority of church. Yes, yes, please let me know. Fast, fast. And whatever you are going to say, I'm going to listen. Whether it is correct or incorrect doesn't matter to me. What matters? Your opinion only matters. So please feel free. Rajkumar said, yes, God. Good morning. Hmm. Yes, I won't answer. Please. That's it. Only 2-3%. Preeti said, rejecting the divine theory of kingship. I usually say this statement. It's my quote. Common sense is a very uncommon thing prevalent in India. And you are making me right. You're proving my point right as like you, Louis 16. Yes, Ashwini said king was no more considered as a god. Okay. Yes. Just use your common sense. What kind of changes? What do you think? As we mentioned that point lots of time. Means in the last three lecture, if you go through all the videos once again, you will get to know that particular thing I mentioned at least 100 times. Ashwini said the property of second estate was seized. Okay. Taxes were abolished. Don't you think so? The main issue between first and second estate versus third was of privileges. Yes, exactly. End of privileges. I mentioned this lots of time. There was a bone of contention in the social problem. Issue of privileges, issue of privileges. Yes, of course. So, what is religious changes introduced? It is related to religion. What are the secular changes other than religious changes are secular? You get quite confused because right now in India environment is like that. If you consider any person as a secular, then you're going to think so that this person is basically following the ideology of appeasement. Your mindset is very clear because every day you're consuming the same thing from most of the sources. But please do not fall into that trap. Use your common sense. So if anybody asks you secular changes means other than religious changes, all changes are secular in nature. Like what? Like what? Let me explain. Secular changes. End of privileges. Abolition of taxation. Or we can say the abolition of old taxation system. Next, seizing the properties of churches and nobles. The property seized by National Assembly because they were having lots of property and they were not in a position to handle. And why it is so? Because it's a right of common people. Common people were working there, so they seized that property and distributed among the common, among the peasants. Clear? Then, then what do you think? What do you think? What can be considered here? Let's take a religious. Just tell me the secular changes I'm going to mention. Religious changes. End of authority of churches. End of authority of churches because church influenced the king. So this authority was ended here. Second, religious changes. End of tithe. Next, here don't you think education, free from religious teaching. End of tithe here. End of authority of church. Along with that, divine origin of kingship is also ended. Yes, secular changes. End of birth-based society. Don't you think so? This is also secular changes. End of authority of churches, end of tithe, end of divine kingship, such kind of religious changes, secular changes, privilege, end of privileges, end of old taxation system, seizing of the property of churches and nobles, end of birth-based society, education is free from religious, means secular education introduced based on scientific ideas. Clear? Clear everyone? Yes, exactly. So, so these two types of changes, religious and secular changes, destroyed old France. Old France, that old France based on absolute monarchy, agrarian economy, yes, and institution of nobility. Don't you think so? These changes ended everything. Absolute monarchy, agrarian economy, and nobility. Yes, everyone? Clear? Clear this point? Any doubt? Any doubt? Any confusion? Good. Now we are moving towards the second phase of revolution. Earlier we mentioned about the first phase of revolution, First phase of revolution was first phase, that is known as National Assembly or Constituent Assembly. Very good. Nobody is having doubt. How smart you are. When I was student like you, I was like, I always have a doubt. Good. So first phase was basically related to National Assembly, Constituent Assembly. It started from 1789 to 1791. Okay. Now we are starting the second phase of revolution, and that is known as Legislative Assembly. Legislative Assembly. So what happened? As we know that National Assembly took the task of drafting constitution. After some time, that task accomplished. Means they accomplished their task of drafting constitution. Now constitution is ready. So this constitution is going to enact through Legislative Assembly, and for that reason there was an election took place under the preview of Constituent Assembly on the basis of new constitution. Under the preview of new constitution. Election took place under the preview of Constituent Assembly on the basis of new constitution. Now after election, there was a result known as hung assembly. How it is so? Because just imagine, as we mentioned here, the first state, second state, first, second and third state. Okay, as we mentioned, third state form National Assembly. There are few we mentioned earlier. There are few rationalist people became the part of National Assembly. There are few rationalists from second state became a part of National Assembly, and it gets a true character of National Assembly. Okay, because member of all the state took part in National Assembly. Few, as we mentioned, the dotted line, it shows the few members from both the sides. Clear? So they took part in National Assembly. They draft the constitution. Constitution is ready. Now election takes place. But the majority section here is the majority section, didn't participate in that, and now they realizes, now this section realizes that they don't have authority. Earlier they were the powerful people in the society. Now this bourgeois took the leadership. What about us? It's a question of our existence. So they decided to take part, this two star decided to take part in election. They took part in election, and the resultant of that is hung assembly. How? Because no one gets majority. Because no one gets majority. See? There were three groups in that parliament. First, monarchist, second, republic, and third, centrist. Monarchists were known as rightist, republicans were known as leftist, and those who are not part of these known as centrist. And you know one thing as a common sense, that if you want to run the government, you require majority, either absolute or manageable. Or you can manage it. Absolute majority there, then it's an unquestionable thing. But if you don't have that majority, and for that you can manage, you can convince the others to do so. But this managed thing has happened when the groups adopt having adoptive nature. If they are rigid, then this is not going to happen. If they are rigid, then it is not going to happen. So monarchists were the first group in that. Monarchists form the one group in that. It is just like monarchist, republican, and centrist, and no one is, sorry, I can draw this here, here. Three groups were there: monarchist, centrist, and republicans, and no one is having majority. And without majority, it's not possible to do your task. It's not possible to enact the laws. Okay, so tomorrow we are going to discuss this concept: rightist, leftist, and centrist. And after that I'm going to end this thing, because without knowing this concept, it's very difficult for you to understand the next course, that is national convention. Along with that, some of you are having prejudices, some of you are having misconception related to the rightist, related to the leftist, to whom we can consider as rightist, leftist, centrist. So such type of misconception, misinformation is there with you. So tomorrow we are going to sort it out, that confusion. So before that, I just want to ask one more question, that is, do you have any problem, any query, any question? Yes, everyone, please let me know. Do you have any question, query? No? So this is my Unacademy underscore this is my Telegram channel. So if you are having I don't know exactly, but it's like the same, maybe it is a capital or small, I don't remember that, but it is just Unacademy underscore Harsh V10. This is my Telegram channel. If you want to connect with me, you can. If you are having any doubt, any query, you can ask there. Yes, so I'm always there for you. I will help you a lot if you want help from me. Clear? So it should be the two-side communication. It should not be a one-way communication. So I don't think so anybody is having any problem. So thank you very much for your valuable time. Tomorrow we are going to meet at 8:30. Thank you very much. Yes, it is written Unacademy underscore Harsh V10. It is my Telegram channel. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Okay.